Howdy, I'm Matt, and in this video we are going to be discussing the Reptile Harrier S1100. Now you will see she's been made up and she is in front of me. She is technically ready for a maiden, but I just need to put my hands up straight away. I've not fitted any FPV gear just yet. I will do that tomorrow because I am actually recording this at about 1 o'clock in the morning because I can't sleep. So I'm trying to be productive at the moment. Right, let me just get to my first, my overall impression so far of the Reptile Harrier. But do keep in the back of mind, we always hold our final judgment until we actually see the model fly, okay? My first impressions, or my overall impression so far, is that I love the molded EPP and I have a good suspicion that it's going to fly pretty well. There are some howevers, okay? Now, before we get into the howevers, I do want to focus upon this model's good points, okay? Because I do feel it's worth focusing upon these good points before we get into the niggles. And there's a couple in there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6 little niggles, okay? They're all little stuff, but I do feel that you need to know about them. So let's focus on the positive points. Nice big thick wing cord, okay? If we put that up like so, that is a nice big chunky wing cord. There is reflex built into it. If you don't want to give Mr. Sir Bruce, I'm sure many of you know Sir Bruce, it will explain what reflex is. Basically the back of the wing goes up. That's what so they have got that built in here. It does look quite nice. I can't fit it all in on the camera, so it's a big wing. Yeah, it's got some nice things to it. I do like the carbon fibre plate on the top, and then up underneath, if I show underneath, is that there's a rod there, and we will get to why there's not a plate on here in a moment. There is a rod underneath there that did work out. The wing holding on mechanism did. I didn't, to be honest, when we did the unboxing, I wasn't that impressed with it. Now that I've been and put it together, it works pretty good. You will see down there there's a hole, there's an Allen key in there which you can undo, or in my case I've done up, and you'll notice some tape on there, and I need to put that on wing holding. Okay, get to my point, Matt, spit it out. It does hold the wings on really well, but I have been inclined to put some tape on mine, but I'm sure somebody will ask me, like, Matt, what glue did you use? Pour worked absolutely brilliantly, almost exclusively used on this model. I do think that I didn't. Oh, we'll have a look at that wiring in a minute. Oh, no, screw it. Should we do it? Should we do it now? Let's do it now. Let's grab a quick look at the wiring. I'm going to pull. I haven't glued this bit in. There's a reason why I haven't glued that in. Because I wanted to show you that. That's my little wiring loom, which I've got in there. Okay, so you'll see that we've got, we'll get to the motor in a minute, we've got the motor wires coming in, we've got a quad ESC, don't judge me, the ESC wire with the connector on there so we can pull it out, and the cables going into the back of the motor, back of the model itself. And I don't think that's going to fall out in flight, so I've kind of just stuffed it in there, might put a bit of tape on it. Nice big finger grip on the bottom. I have had to put some E6000 glue down the side because it didn't feel in there strong enough just with Pour, so I did put a bit extra on there. I have been and marked the CG. Now I can't remember what the CG is. The CG is 285 millimeters behind its head. So it's about there where I've been and marked it, and I don't know whether that's on. Yeah, it's kind of what they've shown from the top. So that's what I've been and marked the CG on here, because that's what they've printed in the manual. Coming around to the top of the model, the winglets on the end, just again, Pour was used to put them on the end, but I did put a little bit of E6000 over the top of them as well. Now there are 2 little bays. Now I think it's this bay here, which, yes, it is. Now what I've been undone on this one, I've cut that little hole out there because that's where I am going to put my FPV section in there. And then I got the blowtorch and a hot piece of wire, and then melted a nice little channel in there so I can get the wires for the FPV pod out to this little section. and that was quite easy to do. It's quite thick foam, and it's really quite tough foam, to be honest. So if you try doing it with a craft knife, you're going to struggle. So get yourself a blowtorch and a bit of wire, and then heat up the wire and then melt it in and twirl it around. Much, much easier. One thing which I don't like, just randomly, it's not in my notes, but it's this back little section here. So this nose section does come off, so I'll pull these pieces off. And when you put it together, you get this odd piece of foam. Don't throw that away because you need that. That's the lip in there. And then you have another bit of plywood, and that goes in there. Okay. Now the bit which I don't like is this rear hatch. Now I'm a little bit paranoid when it comes to hatches because I had a what was it? It was a Skywalker summit. It was a really good flying wing. I really liked it. It flew bloody well. What was it called? It was a white one, very funny little pointy nose on it, very cute, very cheap, and I had to give it a shite review because the bloody cap, the lid, the canopy flew off it, which basically rendered the model useless because it was covered the whole nose and it blew off because they, very frustrating. Anyway, so I have this perversion to lids and stuff falling off, and this back section's only got this tiny little foam little indent in there, and that's all they are expecting you or to have to hold that in there. And I know this is slightly angled down, so the magnets will hold it in, but it's not a lot to hold that back section in. So what I've done, and what I would suggest you do, is use some pins just to hold that back section in, because I'm not that much of a fan of magnets. And I know that we're not going to get any wind blowing back this way, but even still, I'm not a fan of just magnets, and I think that back section was a little bit underthought, if that makes sense. Anyway, look into the sides of the fuselage. Have a look in there. Let me pull this one to one side and let's get the zoom going. Let's get zoomed right in. So apologies, you're looking at me hand at the moment. Let me move that over to one side. There. Okay. It did come with a little plywood base, which I've been stuck in. Again, yoo-hoo poor. I don't know if I'm going to put a flight controller in here yet. But what I did do was a bit of forward planning, and they got the holes here for a little quad flight controller board, standard 35 by 35 what is flight controller, and I have put some adapters in, which was not included in the kit, but I did think it would be a good idea for me to include those in. So that's what I've been and done there for the fuselage. Now, while we're talking about fuselages, we do have the hole down here to the right hand side. Remember, I melted a hole through there. It's about 1.5 inches thick, so like I said, you will struggle to just get that in. You just use a craft knife, so you might want to burn your way in. And apologies, I've been making the desk shake a bit there. It does come with an Allen key. Now you may be wondering, what's the Allen key for? And it didn't twig what the Allen key is for until you build up the rest of the model, which is that the nose section, so this little block here, let me move that back a bit so you can see what I can see, is that you do get this bit of grey foam which will fit a run cam, standard camera in there, FPV camera, or of course you could put a GoPro Session or a Run Cam 3 in there. But this little lid section, you'll see that there's some plywood which you glue on. That goes in on top of there, and they did include some screws. And then the Allen key is for the screws, okay, because the front leading, the front section where you put your battery, clips in like that, and then you've got the opportunity, there's 2 screw holes there to screw down the top canopy. So I really like that. I must say, I really do like that, and I've been including their board. Love the CNC work on the board which they've got there. So if I can just get this back together there. Now you'll notice is that I do have, well, this model does come with 2 front lids, one for a run camera or a Mobius camera, or you could do a pan and tilt on the top of here. It does come with an alternative one, so if you were using, say, what's the run cam doodad with the run cam HD camera in the front, which you're using as your FPV camera, you can just use this lid instead, which is magneted up. They put magnets in there for you. That can fit on the nose, and you can have that nose instead if you so wish. For me, I'll be using the run cam as the HD camera, so I've gone for that one. Now, one thing which I did notice is that because you've got 2 great big holes here, there's not much foam on the side. Again, there's me bringing that up to the camera. Let me bring you to me. So what I've been and done is put some carbon fibre rod down either side, and that's stiffened up this lid. If you don't do that, this top lid is going to be too flimsy and you will break this model either side because the foam is just too thin. So a little bit of an undersight from the manufacturing process. Also, you'll get this funny T-piece of wood in the kit, and it does not mention in the instructions where it goes, but then you realise it actually goes in the lid like so. Okay, and it's to stop the screws going all the way through and ripping all the foam out. Okay, so that's the bit which goes underneath that lid. So when you get that funny T-piece of wood, that's what that's for. Did confuse the living daylights out of me. We were scratching our heads and like, what's this bit for? And then we realised that's what it's for. So two little lids. It does come with another little nose lid bit, which would be for, it depends whether you put this up. So you can see this one's got like a lip, okay, and that's probably quite suggested. That's the one which I'm going to be flying with because it's got this little like lip on top, so it will help with the contrast on the FPV camera. That said, there is another one which has got that cut out. I can squeeze that on there so that it would fit a bigger square, which would be for the Run Cam 3 or the Session, as the case may be. But I'm going with that one on mine. Right. So all in all, so far, I like it. Okay, I can put my hand up. I kind of like it. Oh, we didn't mention about power plants and stuff like that. And that I've gone for Tower Pro servos, MG90S servos in the wings, and I've gone for the Mini Tan motor, which is the Sunny Sky X22 16 1250 kV motors with 8x6 props. Now, I have had so many questions and from people like you saying, Matt, will you be running counter-rotating props? And the answer is no, I will not be running counter-rotating props unless this model exhibits crazy roll, okay, underneath heavy throttle. Then no, I will not be running counter-rotating props, okay? I've had several other twin motor models here, and there is no need to do counter-rotating on most normal models. Now, keep in the back of your mind that we haven't flown this one yet, and we might have excessive torque roll on it, and I may need to backtrack that statement in the very near future. But we're going to go out, I'm going to take it out, we're taking it out this Sunday. So if you're not already subscribed, press the red subscribe button underneath this video and then hit the little bell icon so YouTube tells you when the next video is out, because it's quite likely to be the maiden of this one. And unless this model exhibits like terrible roll when I've banged the throttle up, sorry, left hand for it, then no, I won't be doing counter-rotating props because I've not found any need to them. Even like massive aircraft like the Hercules, do you know how big that aircraft is? All the props rotate the same way. Doesn't it affect them? But then there's no, anyway, I won't go into those details. I also won't be doing differential thrust. There's no need to. We've got elevons. Elevons are way more effective than the motors, in short, believe it or not, for me. So, yeah, I won't be doing that either. Anyway, let's get on to some of the little things which I picked up during the build process. Oh, number one. Control horns. The control horns which I am using, I'll bring this up to the camera, are not the ones which were included in the kit. Now, the ones which were included in the kit were these little black ones, and they looked very, very good and up to the job. But somebody in the factory, and unfortunately this is exactly the same issue which we had with the Reptile Swallow, which was the S670, it was blatantly clear that nobody in the factory had actually tried building their own kit, because if they'd built their own kit, they would have run into several issues. And one of those is that you couldn't fit a battery in it. Why am I picking up on this point? Is because the control horn which they provided would not go through the piece of carbon and then out the other side so that you could clamp it on the opposite side. The little black piece just came out and it was only just breaking the foam on the opposite side. So I am going to say that whoever the designers of this, Reptile, did not actually build one of these kits themselves using their own components, because they would have noticed that and gone, oh my goodness me, we need to include longer arms on our control horns because they just don't go all the way through. Now, a little note for you, if you're sat there and you've got this kit sat in front of you and you're going, Matt, I don't have any longer control horns, what can I do? Well, you can either use well, I would suggest maybe a stronger glue, or like epoxy, okay, because if you don't have that rear piece on the back, the chances are that can get pulled out. So use a better quality glue, and I would suggest something like an epoxy, okay, or if you've got a little hacksaw, let me zoom right in to give you this suggestion, because it would work, and this is what I would do if I was stuck, okay, is that, let me zoom right in, there we go, okay, is that down here, let me get something to point at, so there's the control arm, okay, now on this carbon plate there's only like a little rectangle hole in there for you to then put the bottom of the control horn down through the actual wing itself. If you're stuck and you've only got the supplied ones, get your hacksaw out and then cut from the front in, okay? And what that will mean is that you would then be able to slide that control horn in underneath this plate, okay, and cut down into the foam a little bit. That will now bring you down about 4 mils, something like that, just enough for it to pop out on the opposite side, and then you can clamp it and glue it. Okay, so if you really are stuck and you don't have any control horns with longer arms on them, then put the control horn, so instead of like where I've got mine sat on top of the carbon plate, put it underneath the carbon plate, but to be able to get it through the carbon plate, you need to cut through to the hole so you can slide it in and then dig out a little recess, and then it will come out the bottom of the wing. So yeah, I wasn't impressed about that. It's a minor detail, but it just makes the point. Reptile, you haven't actually put one of your own kits together, because you would have noticed basic, and I mean basic things like that, which have been overlooked during the procurement of the parts. Topic number 2 is the motor mounts. Now, you do get, I'll show you the bigger version, so you can run one motor in the back, if you're that way inclined. Sorry, Andrew, you know who I'm talking about there. Or you can run 2 motors on the back, and I've gone for the twin because really it is a twin motor design model. Now they did include, so for the middle one, they do include a piece of plywood, and there was pieces half this size included for the 2 motor mounts at the back, and a piece of carbon, okay? And they did include, and again that was about the size of the pieces of plywood for the motor mounts on the back, not very big at all. I frankly took one look at it and thought these are wholly inadequate. I didn't like them at all, and I didn't like the way there wasn't just enough wood on the back to be able to screw a motor into, and these carbon plates were just pointless, to be brutally honest. So what I have done, and what I would suggest you do, is that if I turn this one up the other way around, so you have a look at the motor mounts, you will see that I've been glued on some plywood onto the back of the motor mounts, because I do not feel the supplied motor mounts are adequate enough, okay? Now, I'm using quite big motors here, okay? I've got to freely admit that. They are 1250 kV motors, so I am running with 8x6 propellers. If you're using quad motors, and you would be able to fly this motor model with smaller quad motors on there, maybe like a 2205 or a 2206, again, if you've got them in your parts bin, use them, okay? Don't go out and spend 15 quid each for motors like these. If you've already got motors there with you and you're quite happy just to recycle what you've got and you're on a budget, then yeah, use some 2205 motors. But what I would strongly suggest is that you trace out and then cut out some at least 2mm plywood and replace the motor mounts on the back, okay? Because then you've got complete control over what you screw in and what motors you can use on the back of this model, because the supplied motor mounts are wholly inadequate, okay? Simple fixes so far, all straightforward. The average hobbyist, somebody who's built a model or two beforehand, you're going to have no issues with those 2 little minor points. Flimsy lid we spoke about, that was the bit of carbon fibre needed either side of the actual lid because it was just too flexible beforehand, and I just cut a slit in there and used dirty hot glue to get that in there, and I was quite proud that I used dirty hot glue for that because it was quick and it was dirty and it worked. We mentioned about the T-piece of wood. Oh, there was an oddity. Now, this might be a little bit hard. I don't know how well this is going to come out. There is inbuilt differential in the control horns. I don't know how well this is going to come out. I don't know if you can... Yeah, you can see this. Right, there. Let me move this on an angle. Can you see that crease there? Okay. There's the crease for the elevon. Look where the control horn is. I'm trying to get this like almost vertical down. The control horn is behind the actual hinge line. So they have purposely built in differential into these surfaces. So that has raised a massive question mark on how this model is going to fly in the sky, because normally what you... Sorry, let me zoom back in and make the point. Normally what you would want is the pivot point to be above the hinge line. Instead, this one's back by about 5 mils, something like that, behind the actual hinge line. Very peculiar, but it's been built into this model to have some differential in the surfaces. So there is a question mark around how this model is going to handle. Okay, so I will, when we take it up and get it trimmed in, is that I will chuck it around just to see how it reacts to both the roll axis and also the pitch axis, both pulling back up, and to see if I can do an inverted loop with it as well, because that is a little bit peculiar to say the least. And the last one, okay, and those observant ones of you may have noticed when we first looked at this model first of all, is that I have been, I've not got around to gluing these wings on. Right now I'm just was tight on time when I was building this, is that I was not happy about the single clamping mechanism, and also back here on the back of the wing is that this was really flexing around loads, which is not doing now because I've put some tape over it. So the tape which I got with a little bonsai wing a couple of days ago, well, at the same time this one arrived up, I haven't used it at all on the bonsai, but I have used it on this model to stop this wing surface from moving around because it was really, really flexible. So my tip for you is to put some tape along the seams, okay, on both sides, especially back here where the motors are, because if there's any wobble in the motor, then that's going to be wobbling around a tree, and of course that will come out and get amplified on your FPV feed, and you'll see that I have been and brought this around either side, and I've also been to put some down here on the bottom. And my last point which I want to pick up with you is about these little carbon plates down here on the bottom. Now I need to zoom in for you to be able to see these. Now I did pick this up when we unboxed it. I'm sure many of you will remember this when we unboxed the model, is that I did point out that the little brass inserts which are underneath here, I did make a point and make a bit of a joke that whoever built this built it on a Friday, because, let me move over there, can you see that these little brass inserts are raised? Okay, they haven't pushed them all the way down in the foam. Also, they did such a sloppy job on it, the bottoms are filled up with glue, so you can't put the screw all the way down. And out of 4 screw holes on this back one, only one of them is gripping. That one's gripping, but that one's given up the ghost, and these front 2 have also come loose. There, one's just popped out. Is also given up as well. So the quality of the smaller details when it comes to these back trays is not there, and that's why I've left those other 2 off, because I've got to go and try and screw them in a minute. But as you've already seen, those 2 are raised, and what you haven't seen on that side is one of that side is also raised as well. So whoever built this model specifically, I reckon was building it on a Friday, because the bloke didn't give a 2 monkeys about what he was doing, and that does show. If I'm being brutally honest. Right, so just to quickly recap the issues which I noticed. Control horns were too short somebody in the factory didn't actually try to put a kit together using their own components. That showed, okay, because the control horn was not long enough for the little clip to clip on the back of it, and I gave you a couple of suggestions to get around it. I did not like the motor mounts on the back, really did not like the motor mounts at all. They were too small, there was not enough meat in them to get screws in, so I've fashioned my own 2mm plywood ones and stuck those on the back, and now I can stick any motor I like on the back and position it wherever I like to. I did feel the lid was a bit flimsy again. It makes the point that somebody in the factory did not try the different parts of their very own kit which they designed. So a bit of carbon rod down either side has worked out a treat. What else we got? Oh yeah, that funny piece of T-wood, not mentioned in the instructions. It goes underneath the bottom of the one with the canopy. And remember, we do get 2 different canopies depending upon your requirements. And I am going to be going for this one. Oh, I do like the little 2 air vents on the top. Whether they actually get any air in them is a whole different thing, but we got token air vents to say the least. We do have differential in the elevon surfaces and where the control horns are placed. Remember, we did take a quick notice of that one. The screw holes are on the top, and I've forgotten what I wrote on the other one. But all in all, I do kind of like this model. It does look the part, but do keep in the and again with a bit. Did you see the unboxing on this one? I smashed that wing in the radiator, and I'm looking around at the radiator right now, and I've dented the radiator grill on the top. Right, I hit the radiator that hard, and I don't know which. Oh, it was that wing there. And look, there's a couple. You can't even hardly see them. A couple of little dents in there. That's all I did to it, and you saw how hard I hit the radiator with that foam. So anyway, what's my point here? This is the pre-maiden video, okay? I will put links to the different components which I've been put into my model, and again, for absolute clarity, those will be affiliate links. So if you use any of those links, you will be supporting this channel, something which I like to be 100% clear about. The same as that I can tell you that I bought this kit out of my own money for my own abuses, so I am picking up on the smaller points about this kit, because I paid for it out of my own money. So I'm not impressed by this control horns back there, and the ones which they included were wholly inadequate, and I had to go searching in them. Thankfully, I had some ones with some longer arms on, but if I didn't have those, then I would have been a little bit stuck, because I did go on and glue those plates in. Anyway, positive points. I do like the look of the model. It's a twin motor configuration. It's made of molded EPP. We know it's going to be tough. I am going to get some decent sellotape and put some sellotape along the leading edges. Very, very simple mod to do, and it will keep the leading edge of the wing stay fresher for longer. A little simple tip, and it will then take me 2-3 minutes to do for probably both wings, to be honest. Anyway, getting to my point, I like the wing, that's for sure, but do remember we always hold off final judgment until we get the model in the sky, okay? Because we have had models here which have looked absolutely fantastic, been very quick to build, but then have been absolute toads in the sky. And then we've had other models here which have been an absolute nightmare to get built, and there's me scratching my head. I mean, we've been absolute toads to get built. And then the second we've got them in the sky, everything's been forgotten, and they've been absolute peaches. So, yeah, make sure you look out for the maiden video. So far, thumbs up. There's a few niggles, but I'm still saying thumbs up so far. I like the overall look and construction of the model. There's just a few little minor points, which I'm sure, like I mentioned back at the beginning, any pilot which has built 1 or 2 models, these little challenges, you're going to overcome them quite easily. Okay, so I'm going to get some Fpv kit in here, very simple to wire. Like you said, the only thing which you really need to know about is to just melt the wire, use a hot blowtorch or maybe a soldering iron or something just to get through that fuselage underneath that little bay there. If you could use that one, you could use the other side as well. So anyway, from myself, Matt, if you have any questions about the Reptile Harrier S1100, please just ask in the comment section underneath this video. And with that said, from myself, Matt, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this episode, and I'll see you again shortly. Cheerios!